Good morning, Bambi. Good morning, everyone. We're going to give a couple more minutes. I know folks are still signing in. Probably in the next minute, we're going to get going. We've got a lot of great speakers today, and we're so happy you signed in. Thanks so much. Good morning, everyone. We do know a lot of folks are still signing in, but we've got a great crowd to start out with. Thanks so much for signing in. We want to welcome you today. This is the second in our Working Together series, Discovering Ability, Stories of Lived Experience from the Workplace. We're very excited that you took the time to sign in today. We want to recognize our sponsor, and this production here is really a partnership with Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council. I know some of the council members and staff are on the call, so thank you guys for being here, and really thank you so much for the support in the production of the series. My name is Laura Schroeder, and I work with O'Neill Communications. I am the content strategist and producer for O'Neill. I also am the producer of the series. This has not been a solo experience. This has been a combination of a lot of great folks that I've worked with. I did want to introduce you also, Devika Rao, our president and CEO. She is on the call as well. She's going to be supporting everyone in the chat. So feel free, please, to click. If you want a private conversation with her, you can just click on the host, and you can reach out if you're having any technical difficulties. Thanks, Devika, for your support today. We do want real quickly, this is probably pretty familiar to everyone. You've seen this. We want to remind you today, please, please, please register for the upcoming series. There are going to be some great opportunities. April is packed with opportunity. I wanted to bring to your attention that the dates, some of them are duplicate dates. Those are not two different webinars. Those are two different opportunities. So there'll be like a Tuesday opportunity and also a Thursday. So if you register and you miss the Tuesday, you still can come to the Thursday. We're going to be doing a deeper dive during these sessions for some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. So please take time to register. Devika is going to put the link in chat and make it available throughout the session for you to register. I do really encourage you to register for all of those sessions. Then you have those Zoom links available whenever you're able to sign in. I wanted to really quickly just give kind of an overview of what we're going to be doing today and sort of set the precedent for today. A lot of people are accustomed to a webinar environment where there's a lot of lecture. This is not that session. Today, what we're going to be doing is engaging our stakeholders. That includes you in the conversation. please use the features at your disposal to engage with our presenters. You can chat with them. We're going to have activities where we're going to ask you to be involved in the conversation. And then please continue to share your knowledge, your experience, and your questions there in chat. Also, you can use the raise hand icon. I think we're probably going to reserve most of that till the end because we do have a jam-packed session today, but you have that as a feature. And then how about a little love? Maybe give our presenters some love through the emojis and emoticons. Let them know that you're excited to be here and that you love to hear what they're sharing. I want to give a real shout out to this amazing panel of speakers. They've done so much work today for this session. They're going to introduce themselves, but I really just wanted to really take this opportunity as a thank you for the partnership that they have really been amazing partners. So thank you guys. Super excited for you to hear from them. You're in for a real treat. Finally, I'd like to introduce our host, Jeff Arsenault. He's not a stranger to many of you, and Jeff's going to lead us in the discussion today. He's going to be our host for the entire series. He's an entrepreneur and an author, a speaker, and he is just really an advocate, and I'm so happy to have him as the host. So Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll get started. Jeff, I think maybe you're muted.
Thank you, O'Neill Consultant. Thank you, Louisiana Developmental Disability. Thank you for having me host this very important project. I'm Jeff Arsenault. I have a small business, callonjeff.com. I do a lot of work in the DD community. So I'm really excited to be your host. I do want to encourage you to, as Laura said, use your chat whenever you feel like it. We might not respond right away, but we will get to you. It's very important that we all get engaged to 100% capitalize on this program. At this time, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, which is he's actually a key member of Cafe Du Monde, and he will present the keynote. Dejan, tell us who you are, buddy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dejan Jones. I am a member of Cafe Du Monde, and I would like to say thank you for the opportunity from Ms. Laura. I would like to speak today to all of you. Welcome to the webinar series of hiring people with disabilities. This is a great teaching and learning experience on how both the employer and the employee can benefit from each other. One of the things I feel is important for an employer to know when it comes to taking those first steps in hiring a disability is to know the individual. Find out their strengths and weaknesses and establish a success on the job plan where the weaknesses are built up and the employee is put in position and giving duties that help the strengths and shine through, which in turn builds self-esteem and confidence. And I just want to say, guys, always make sure to be yourself and always give it your all and never give up and just go for it. No matter how much the stress it puts on you, just go for it and do what you can. Live your life and do all you can to be who you want to be, who you are. Don't let anyone ever hurt you or feel like you're nothing. Don't let them get to you. Don't let the dollars hate what you do. Be you. Be who you want to be and never give up. I know for me personally, having what is valuable to the output of my work is most important. With a disability that may be hesitant on seeking employment, just know it's okay to get out and try. Let your needs be known and just go for it. In no time, you'll be well on your way to being a productive, reliable, and inspiring person to be around with. That's all I have to say. Always be you and never give up, guys.
Awesome job, Dejon. Thanks a lot. Dejon's my new friend. At this time, I want to kind of encourage you to, tell us a little about who you are in the chat, and bottom line, what you hope to get out of this webinar. The purpose of this is takeaways. What are we going to take away from it? I want to take a minute. I'm not going to extend the invitations, but we have several presenters. Again, I want to say thank you for devoting your time to this. We got, next up, we have a friend of mine who I've done a lot of work with, Bambi. She worked for the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what Louisiana has to say about employment first. Thank you, Bambi. Bambi.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jeff. I have a little bit of background noise. I hope you guys can't hear me. But am I supposed to be introducing myself right now, or is this my time to speak?
Both.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that. Trying to get the background noise out. We're really busy right now at the legislative session, and I'm really glad to be able to be on this call just to share a few minutes about employment. Since 2016, our office, Governor's Office, has really made it a priority to look at employment for people with disabilities in state government. And we have, the governor has an executive order since 2008 establishing the state as a model employer. And basically what that has done is really brought in our state agencies, human resource directors to really look at their policies in regards to training and hiring of people with disabilities. And so that is a big process because state government is big, but it's really, I think it's really impactful because those policies that are being changed in regards to hiring people with disabilities will stay in place even beyond me being in office, the governor being in office. So I think that there's some long-term impacts. Also, I believe that as we hire more people with disabilities, we'll have more examples of the benefit of people with disabilities in employment. And a couple of, I'm gonna just share a couple of stories in regard to, or examples in regards to our employment of people with disabilities. In my office, we have hired 2 people with developmental disabilities who have been I would say that our office would not be as impactful. We certainly would not have been able to represent the authentic needs of people with disabilities without having people with disabilities sharing their stories and their needs. And so some of the ways that we've been able to do that is by identifying those people with disabilities who want to do the type of work that's required in our office, that enjoying the work of lawmaking and the legislative work and interacting with constituents. And so identifying those people and then figuring out how do they contribute to the teamwork of what's required for the office. And so sometimes because of the disabilities, there may be reasons to work kind of alternate schedules to modify schedules in order to meet the needs. Sometimes there are, which I believe this applies to really everyone, what I'm saying, but these are just some of the things that we've done to be able to ensure that our people who have disabilities would have a meaningful employment in our office. Also to look at what are the skills and where they need support. So assigning the work that really helps amplify where they have the greatest skills and amplify their voices at the table, because it just has such an impact when we're at committee meetings or council meetings or meeting with legislators for them to hear from people who have real lived experience. Also looking for areas that people need support. So for instance, the need of a personal care attendant on the job. One of our employees needed that or thought may need that at the beginning of employment. But within a month or so, we realized the support that was needed was just natural support that could be provided by fellow employees. And so we just work through that the same way we work through that for someone without a disability. But sometimes we close the door on people with disabilities before we give them an opportunity to see that it really is not that much different than people without disabilities in regards to needs and accommodations. And but the benefit is just immeasurable. I can't imagine our office without having the two people in our office who have worked and the contribution they have made to our office. And just so happens that our office is the governor's office, so it really has an impact on the state as a whole. And that's about it. I really appreciate, again, the opportunity to be able to just share about a little bit about the work that we've done. So thank you, Jeff, and thank you for everyone who has helped to put this work webinar on.
Thank you, ma'am. That's so important to hear from the state. She mentioned something about benefits of hiring people with disabilities. Keep in mind, we'll take a deeper dive into it. Keep checking out our agenda and sign up for the next few courses. At this time, it's my honor to hear a little about the ADA from Ms. Ricky David. Ricky?
Hi, thank you, Jeff. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, you're good.
Okay.
Yes.
So good morning, everyone. As Jeff had mentioned, my name is Ricky David. I serve as the State Americans with Disabilities Act coordinator for Louisiana state government. And in my role, I provide educational and technical support to state agencies to help them comply with the ADA. So prior to this, I was a human resources professional for 20 years. So together, my current and my previous roles have given me a pretty unique perspective on why employers should care about disability issues. And I've already alluded to the first one, which is it's the law, plain and simple. Next slide, please. So the Americans with Disabilities Act was enacted more than 30 years ago. And 30 years later, what President George H.W. Bush said when he signed the bill is still true. Together, we must remove the physical barriers we have created and the social barriers that we have accepted. So barriers are removed by employers by providing what are called reasonable accommodations for individuals with disabilities. And some examples of reasonable accommodations that I've seen in my experience include a gentleman named Samuel who has bipolar disorder, and he had difficulty concentrating and he would become agitated with overstimulation. And so we worked with him and accommodated by providing a white noise machine to keep in his cubicle. And we also moved his cubicle to a less trafficked area in the office. We also have a lady named Linda that I helped with. This individual is highly immunocompromised, very sensitive to infection and environmental conditions, to the point that her doctor had recommended that she live a self-isolating life. Her sensitivity was that significant. And so I helped the employer work with her to accommodate and actually provide full-time teleworking for her. So another example is a gentleman named Dan, and he had severe debilitating depression to the point where he was unable to function. And so we worked with him and his wife. I talked with her regularly. We provided paid leave for him for 1.5 years until he was able to qualify for retirement. And unfortunately, we weren't able to accommodate him in a way to get him back to work, but we did work with him to get him to that retirement point so that he could draw a pension. Next slide, please. The next reason to care about disability issues is because it's natural. So the World Health Organization states that disability is a natural part of the human condition. Almost everyone will be temporarily or permanently disabled or impaired at some point in life. And those who survive to old age will experience increasing difficulties in functioning. And that includes hearing loss, arthritis, memory issues. So as humans, it's natural and normal for us to sustain illness or injury, as well as experience functional limitations as we age. Because of that, the disability community is constantly shifting because new people are being added to it every day. And some examples of temporary and permanent onset of disabilities that I've seen includes an individual, a lady named by the name of Monique. She was employed with us, and she is legally blind, but she also was temporarily disabled due to knee surgery. And because of her visual impairment, she couldn't drive herself to work. Her husband drove her and dropped her off in front of the building every morning. And while she was recovering from her knee surgery, she had to use one of those knee rollator walkers. And it was hard for her to get in and out of the car in front of the building. It wasn't, easily accessible where it was at. And so what we did is we worked with her to get her badge access so that her husband could pull the car around to the back to the loading dock of the building. And that way she could get in and out. It was better equipped for people using carts and rollers and things like that. So that was an accommodation we were able to provide her. We have another gentleman by the name of Rick that he lost 2 fingers due to a fireworks accident. And, obviously a permanent disability, unexpected onset. And the way that we accommodated him was we provided paid leave while he had surgery and was recovering. And then we allowed him to return to work part-time at first. And then once he was back to work, we also purchased transcription software to reduce the amount of typing that was required for his job. So next slide, please. The third reason to care about disability issues is because it's prevalent. 26% of adults, or 1 in 4 in the US, have some type of disability. And that percentage is even higher in the South. Imagine that. So, and that was even before the COVID-19 pandemic. So the pandemic has been labeled a mass disabling event, increasing the number of people who identify as having a disability in 2021 by more than 1.2 million people. So that's a huge increase in the disability community. So the upside is that individuals with disabilities represent a largely untapped market for new talent, more than 10.1 million people. So studies have shown that employers that prioritize disability inclusion experience reduced turnover, reduced recruiting costs, increased productivity, and workplace safety. And so some examples just of the reduced turnover that I have seen are the examples of some of the individuals I've talked about. Samuel was employed with the same agency for 18 years until he retired in August of 2020. And then we had Monique. She was employed with the same agency for 14 and a half years. And then Rick was employed for 13 and a half years. And one side note to these individuals, each of them had a scientific degree and performed advanced technical duties related to geology and coastal management. So I think it's important to note that we can't make assumptions about the skills and abilities of individuals with disabilities. These individuals obviously were educated and skilled and talented. And so we can't assume that every individual with a disability is uneducated or can only perform clerical duties. So it is important to keep that in mind as well. So with that, I will turn it back over to Jeff.
Thank you, Ricky. I absolutely love whenever I get a perspective on the ADA, because all I know is what I live. I don't know it front and back.
Yeah.
At this point, along with thanking Ricky, I know there's some questions, some comments out there, because without questions or comments, we depend on your feedback to get the most out of this program. So I would like to encourage you, what are some fears? What are some myths, misconceptions? I know they are out there, and I know some of them, but I want to know from you, from the audience, what are some of the things that you think, but you don't know? This is the opportunity right now. Send me a chat. Let us respond. I'll give you a minute. I'm waiting for all these chats before our next speaker, who I am looking forward to. I know for me, automatically safety's an issue, and I got some feedback on that, which I won't go into, but I know it's a fear out there that I've never heard it from anybody else, and I've lived it. So what are some of your feedback? Some of the things that you are thinking about? Scared. Wow. Fears. Fear's something that, you know, only I can walk through with somebody else. I need to put it out there. I'm scared to go to work. I'm scared I won't make it. I'm scared if I hire this person, what if I need to fire them? All of these fears are real. Thank you. I got several feedback, which I certainly agree with you. When it comes to safety, I think people with disabilities are the safest people in the world, because bottom line, anytime I get out of bed, I gotta be on guard. I gotta be careful about where I go and what I touch. That's my reality. So at this point, what do I bring to an organization? At this point, I would like to introduce Shonda. Shonda's going to share with us a little about her perspective on employment. Shonda?
All right. Thank you, Jeff. So I'm Shonda McGuigan, and I'm going to talk to you about the advantages of hiring someone with a disability. First, as Dejan mentioned, it's important to understand that each person with a disability brings a unique set of skills and talents to the workplace. It's important that the employer utilizes these strengths and works with the employee to create a workplace environment that allows everyone to thrive. Typically, employees with a disability prefer stability rather than frequent change, so there's a higher chance there'll be less turnover in a position, like Ricky touched on. Studies have also shown employees with disabilities can be more reliable, more punctual, and have greater work ethic than non-disabled colleagues. And I can't think of any employer who wouldn't want these qualities in someone that they're hiring. On a more personal note, a unique trait of my own disability is that I am hyper aware of what's going on around me from a sensory standpoint. So how does that benefit my employer? When I'm in a role that has any kind of human interaction, like customers or students, I am overly aware of their body language, their tone, any small changes that may be happening in a conversation. And so that means I'm able to quickly adjust on what they might need or pick up on how the conversation is going so that I can change what I'm doing to meet their needs. I'm also able to hyper focus on tasks, which means there can be a quicker turnaround on projects. I have great attention to detail, a good working memory, and ability to recognize patterns, which are an asset in most workplaces. Although the flip side of this does mean that I may need some accommodations. Accommodations don't have to be expensive or difficult to implement, so there's no need to be afraid or scared of hiring someone who may need accommodations. But we'll talk more about accommodations in a future webinar, so make sure you register for that one as well. Another benefit is a change in viewpoint or perspective. People with disabilities are able to offer their employer a different viewpoint, a different way of thinking, and a different strategy to approaching problems. For example, an employer who doesn't have a disability may not be considering how their products or their services might not be accessible to everyone. An employee that has a disability will likely be able to spot these gaps. This allows the employee and employer to work together to fill in these gaps to produce a more equitable output. And having input from different perspectives can also help develop new or better products and services that can bring in new clients or customers. Having a diverse workforce also creates better company culture and makes the workplace more inclusive. Being more inclusive and equitable helps the employee with a disability, but it also helps everyone in the company and improves that culture. But most importantly, individuals with disabilities are still capable of performing the job and have just as many skills and qualifications as non-disabled candidates. So it's important that as an employer, you are looking at people with disabilities and not just judging them before you actually get a chance to see what they can do. Thank you so much for listening, and I will turn it back over to Jeff.
Thank you, Shonda. I love it. We're getting some good stuff accomplished today.
Jeff, I wanted
yes.
to bring an attention to a great question real quick. Someone was asking you, Shonda, can you tell maybe a specific example or story that you experienced where your kind of hyper awareness solved a problem at work?
Absolutely. So in a previous position, I worked for a university, and I worked for the graduate school office, and I had to deal with all of our students on a daily basis. And we had a lot of students that this was their first kind of experience with some really tough classes and tough situations, moving away from family, coming from different states or different countries. And sometimes they would come into my office with a question about classes or registration, but I could tell that something else was really bothering them. So I was able to kind of pick up on that they were acting different than they usually act when they talk to me. And I could be like, okay, what's really going on? What else is going on that we can help you with?
Awesome. Thank you. Wow. These are two friends of mine. I would like to encourage you to drop whatever you're doing and open up your ears, because we're about to hear an interview from two people right now. And then we'll hear a powerful story. So the floor is yours, Cheney and Lacey.
Hi, Cheney. Thank you for meeting with me today about the community outreach specialist opening we have. I was very impressed with what I've seen so far. To get us started, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Lacey. Thank you for having me today. A little bit about myself. I just got out of college 6 months ago, a year and a half ago, with a bachelor's degree in agricultural business. I did that degree with intentions of becoming a 4-H agent, to work with kids and be out in the community and do something different besides a desk job position or work for my father, which is what everyone expected of me. So I kind of wanted to change that perspective. So I was like, let me go do something different and what I'm passionate about. So I chose that career, but after interview after interview, it didn't really work out. Employers always found someone with more experience. So I had been at this position of information and referral specialist for about a year now. And with the previous director, I kind of struggled with her not using me for my talents and wasn't sure where I fit best at. And I would spend most days begging to at least answer the phone. And then when she would introduce me, it was mostly of, this is our employee with a disability in the office. So we kind of butt heads a lot. And I'm looking for a more outward experience where I can go out into the community like I always dreamed of and educate people on our services that are out there for people with disabilities and connect with members of the society. So I really think that you would benefit from me in this position.
Okay, and with your bachelor's degree, does it, what kind of experience, like with public speaking? I've seen that you have something mentioned in your resume about public speaking.
Yeah, so with my degree, I didn't do so much of public speaking. I did communication classes in college, but I was very active in public speaking in college, high school, where I was competing in FFA contests for public speaking. And I almost made it to state, but I was missing my biography. And so I've done several public speaking opportunities. And then when I was in college, I did an internship where I would actually train youth on, I did an internship with a 4-H agency in my local parish. And I was able to train students on their development programs, and I actually trained them in interview processes too, and taught them how to public speak and be more confident in themselves. So although my degree wasn't based on communication, I did still do a lot of public activities within that.
Oh, that's wonderful. What is something you would say is the professional strength?
I think a professional strength of mine would be my determination to get tasks done, and to be prideful in my work and my abilities. I also I want to work, and I take a lot of pride in everything I do. So I think that would benefit very well in my outreach, whereas I would be able to shine with my public speaking, and I'm a good team player as well. So I don't mind leading the team or accepting help from others, because it kind of became part of my life where, you know, I
Yes,
learned how to be
yeah,
independent
that's
and depend on
definitely some
myself.
strengths that not everyone definitely wants to accept sometimes. So that's great.
Right.
What would you say is a professional weakness?
I think in the past, my weaknesses have been experience. It's the fact that I don't have much of a work background. The only work experience I had really prior to this job was working for my dad's company, where I did book work for him. And so, like, when it came down to interview processes, that's where I was declined at, was work experience. So I would assume that's my weakness. But I feel like the only way to get experience is to have experiences to get experience.
Yep,
So
we definitely all have to start somewhere.
right.
When balancing multiple projects, how do you keep yourself organized?
um I keep a to-do list, and I check things off as I go. um I, I make sure that I try to be very routinely in my actions. um that way it gives you kind of don't have to stress about the way things are going if you constantly do the same thing over and over again. I also like to do calendars, let my phone notify me ahead of time of when things I have coming up, stuff like that.
Yeah, and with this job, you're not gonna, you won't be dealing with a lot of stressful situations, but there will be, multiple contracts that you'll be handling. There'll be balancing multiple projects, which sometimes can lead to sometimes stressful situations.
Right.
And in that situation, how would you deal with those stressful situations? Have you been put in those situations before? And if so, could you provide an example of one of those situations where you had to deal with that?
Let me see. A previous example would be where, like I said before, I did an internship for the 4-H agency at my parish, and so I did a lot of planning of. I helped them plan their events and train their participants for their contest, and so it was a 3-month, very impactful summer of contests and events that we had to get ready for and practice for, and they wanted me to get that full experience, so they put me in charge of you know planning how these practices were going to go, and full. I mean, they led me along the way, but it was in my hands to make these plans, um, and to see them out. And the best thing I could do um, was follow, uh, kind of figure out what needed to be done, and make me a checklist and follow follow through. Follow it was
So you had to lead, plan, and implement it.
yes.
Great. So that's pretty much what this job is too. Because you'd be in charge of doing that.
Okay.
And this is a far-fetched question, but just in general, what are your future goals?
Well, mostly to have a career in something. I didn't see my past career plan working out, mostly because it is very difficult to get a job in that field, because most people that are in that field love it and they go till they retire, and so it's a long kind of waiting process. And so when the jobs came available and I would go on interviews and then I didn't get it, it kind of put me longer on the kind of waiting list for it. So then when I started here and we started working with people with disabilities, I got very passionate about it because I am a person with a disability, and I like helping people and guiding them. And so I kind of feel like I found my new passion with, educating the community on disabilities and helping guide these families. So I'd be interested to see what this career path will take me for the future, to see, I think my life goals have kind of altered based on my intentions of what employment I can get, if that makes sense.
Yes. Are there any questions that you have for me?
Mainly like, is there a reason that you wouldn't hire me?
No, not at this point.
Okay. When should I hear from you about?
Our decision should be made within 2 weeks. We do have the job ending in a week and a half is our end date, and then you should hear back from me in about 2 weeks.
All righty. Well, if you have any questions for me in the meantime, please, you have my contact information. I'm willing to answer any questions you have about anything, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you, Cheney. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. And the same, if you have any questions, just let me know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. What an interview. Thank you, Lacey and Cheney. Before we dive more into Cheney, I wonder what stood out to you? A positive, negative? What stood out to you in that interview? Let's hear from y'all. And as a reminder, we have a lot of people on this call, so y'all feel free to interact with each other. We want interaction. We need interaction with each other to fully capitalize on this employment initiative. So I'm gonna give y'all a few minutes to send us some feedback, and in the meantime, while you're sending that, we're gonna dive a little bit more into Cheney.
Is it my turn or Lacey's?
Give me 1 second. I got 2 words I want to spit out. I'll get determination and expectations are 2 words that I really will dive into later on in this series. Now, Cheney, would you mind telling me a little more about Cheney?
Jeff, actually, Lacey's going to go first. So sorry about that. I didn't advance the slide. We're good.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, everyone. Hi, my name is Lacey Palazola. I wear many hats. Today, I'm referenced as a parent and an employer. I'm happy to have you all here today and to be sharing my experience with each of you in the hopes that I can help you learn the benefits of employing people from the DD community. The purpose of that exercise, just so you can understand, was I'm sure you're all asking, what was the purpose? You've all been through interviews. Why did 2 people just start doing an interview out of nowhere? What's the difference between that interview and any other normal interview? Was something that you might not have noticed, that if you would have noticed if we were in a face-to-face interview, Cheney does have a disability. And so just knowing that, let's just ask ourselves that question one more time. What is the difference between that interview and any other one? There's no difference. Both interviews, no matter what it is, should always be the same. So again, the answer is nothing. The interview is similar. There's no difference in any kind of interview. So the whole purpose was just to show you that there is no difference, and if you are ever made to feel like there's a difference in an interview, there should not be. And Cheney is going to actually go to this whenever she speaks as the employee. She'll go further into that interview process and how, her experience was as an employee part of it. But we just wanted to make sure that you knew that the purpose of that interview, whenever we were doing the exercise, that was the purpose of the interview. What I'm going to do is just kind of tell you a little story about Cheney and I that will help support our interview scenario. So that interview that you actually just heard was a real situation that occurred 5 years ago. I took over an organization as a director, and I was interviewing the employees for their positions within the company. Cheney was actually one of the employees there, and we actually had that same interview. So within taking over a new organization, I noticed quickly that our productivity was down. It needed a little bit of work. We had major contracts. Every contract has deliverables that needed to be met. So my first step was talking to the employees, identifying skills like any employer would do. I needed to get a feel of the employees, exactly where their roles needed to be, what needed to be done to make the organization better. So when interviewing Cheney, I quickly realized that Cheney's personality was the perfect fit for an outreach position needed by most contracts. Her knowledge, her life experience of the programs made her the perfect candidate to explain services to the individuals and the families. So I was excited that I found the perfect person to handle this contract, and actually handling multiple contracts, but it was one position. She also wanted more hours than what she was currently working. So not only did I find the perfect person, I had someone who could work more hours, which covered a full-time position, and she covered multiple contracts. But the next question was, how do I make this happen? So we had to do some restructuring around. I knew the position required travel. It required setting up tables, handing out materials. Cheney needed to be able to carry stuff, and it needed to be able to carry stuff quite a distance sometimes. So I had already identified her skills, and with some creativity, she could excel in this position and be an asset to the organization. We just needed to think and be creative. So in this creativity thinking, all we need to do is provide accommodations. And then Cheney will explain this a little bit later, but with a wagon and a suitcase on wheels, she was able to carry these marketing materials. So she was able to attend most of the community events. And what did this do for my organization? Not only was Cheney's skill set used to boost the organization's productivity, we exceeded the contract deliverables, and we increased overall employee efficiency throughout the whole organization. So Cheney was used to cover multiple contracts in one position, and it allowed other employees to be freed up to handle other duties. So it just boosted the whole organization's productivity. And that's a huge thing whenever you're looking at an overall organization, and when you, as a business owner and an employer, when you're looking at the productivity, that's a huge thing to look at as an employer. So tips for employers, and especially human resource directors, whenever you're interviewing, the first thing to do to be successful is to talk to individuals. Really listen to what they want to do and what they're interested in. Once you listen to them and identify those skill sets, that's when you identify the areas of how they will help your business be successful. So I will now turn the next slide over to Cheney, and she will share her experiences with you as an employee. Thank you.
Hi.
You're good.
Hello. Hi. Okay. So as y'all know already, I'm Cheney. And as I tried to share a little bit in my interview with Lacey, I kind of had a rough patch in the beginning when it came to employment. And because of these rough patches, my goals and ambitions for life had to change based on what I was doing then, because what I was doing in the past wasn't working. So I got really passionate about my outreach and working for the disability community and helping other families like me. And what else did I do? empowered other individuals to become better self-advocates and more independent and stuff like that. So I got really passionate about it, and it was great. I think 2 years that I spent doing outreach and being the self-advocate coordinator and doing stuff like that. And then so like Lacey said, one thing that I had to do after the interview and she gave me the position was to think, can I really do this position? And I didn't want to bring my concerns to Lacey because I've been shut down so many times before, but I knew that there would be a way. There's a will, there's a way. I was going to figure out how to do it. And so I had to figure out that my biggest challenges with this position would be, how would I carry the papered materials? I walk with forearm crutches, so like going out into outside and then getting into my car, like how would I be able to transport those from building to building? Well, I didn't want to bring another person with me, because if I had to tell Lacey that I needed somebody to help me, then why would she need me in this position? Also, I had to be concerned with setting up a table. How am I going to get a table from place to place with my forearm crutches and my physical abilities? So I had to get a wagon. So I came to Lacey about 2 weeks later and I was like, hey, look, I had these concerns, but here's my solutions. And so she kind of laughed at me. She was like, you could have just told me you had these concerns and we'd have worked it out together. But because of the way because of the fears I had, it was made it, and what I experienced with previous employers, it made it very hard for me to open up about my own concerns. But at that moment, I realized that Lacey was a person that I could have gone to, and our relationship was able to build upon that and gave me a better work experience. And so about a year and a half, 2 years, I was doing outreach and all that with her. And then Lacey had to leave. And so I also went through the fears of, oh my gosh, a new director's coming in. What am I going to do with this? You know, am I going to have to re-explain myself and my abilities to a new director? Like, I don't want to go through that again, but I also don't want to go through job hunting again. And so I decided that if I was going to have to deal with a new employer, I didn't want to do it in the same place. I needed to get more experience somewhere else. So I kind of put feelers out and tried to apply for other jobs. And luckily, a friend of mine was looking to hire a biller for the ABA clinic. And so I was like, man, I don't know nothing about billing. Like, you sure? Like, I really don't have experience in that. And he was like, if you're willing to learn, I definitely can train you. So I was like, okay, you know, we'll do it. So I got on with his company. He trained at the time. They had just opened a second clinic. And so he trained me how to bill one and then transferred me to two. And within a year and a half, he had opened up, within 2 years, he had opened up 3 clinics. And I'm now billing all 3 clinics. And I'm actually considered the billing department. So it's really, I'm the only person doing my position for 3 clinics. I handle 12 to 18 clients per clinic. And I bill their insurances and bill the co-pays and the send out invoices, and I run a whole department by myself. So it was crazy to see the transition of where my dad told me growing up that, you know, you had to go to college, you had to know what you want to do because you can't get a job flipping burgers. And so I had planned my whole college career thinking that I could do what I wanted to do based on what I knew I could handle. And I never considered the fact of how employers would look at me in the interview process and how they wanted to hire me. And they talked so passionate with me over the phone, but then I went in for an interview and you could tell the whole demeanor changed. And then I pushed through, I powered through the interview just like I did with Lacey. And then weeks later, I would get those phone calls. I'm sorry, we found someone with more experience. And so that kind of put a damper on my pride where I was like, how can I get experience when no one is giving it to me. Then finally, I was able to get a job. The job offer I got was $8 an hour, 12 hours a week. That is nothing what I was expecting. But I took the job because what else am I going to do? And then, like I explained in my interview, that whole year was me begging for job duties. Please let me answer the phone. I was bored. I wanted to learn. I wanted to gain experience. But that director she wasn't sure. She didn't trust my ability, my own abilities and what I was telling her I was capable of. She just kind of wanted to give me a chance but didn't know how. So that's kind of like my life journey. And if there's anything that I can share with employees, people that are looking for jobs and are in the same situation as I am, where you just don't know whether to give up or keep pushing, I would say keep pushing, because one day you never know, you might become a whole department. Your goals might have to change, kind of like mine did, but make sure you're doing something you're passionate with, and just don't, don't take the negative, and let it bring you down. Keep pushing through. That's all I really have.
I'm sorry. Janie, don't go away. I got a question for you before we go into the discussion. If you had a peer walk up to you and say they want a job, what would you recommend to that individual as a starting point?
Well, first I would ask them what kind of job are they interested in, and like what have they tried before, and I would try to encourage them to go towards something they're passionate about, and if it's something they know wholeheartedly that they can do and people just aren't giving them a chance, then keep pushing till you find that one that'll give you a chance. But don't be afraid to start small either, because I tell myself every day, if I didn't take that $8 an hour, 12-hour a week position, then I'd have never met Lacey, and I'd have never found someone to really teach me how to be an employee, because I didn't have experience. The only other person I worked for was my dad. And I feel like people with disabilities, I mean, while working for family is great, there's nothing wrong with that, but I felt like in my heart that I deserved more than a family-run business. I needed to promote inclusion in the workplace. And I feel like even though it can be discouraging, that individuals should still try. Like,
thank you, Shani. That was awesome.
I'm very passionate about this.
I know, that's why we're here today. I want to thank you for your input. We'll take a deeper dive into all of these icons. These are some simple benefits of how we can make a difference in the workplace. Once again, I want to thank Janie for her input. One of them is happy to be there. I mean, we're proud to be at work. At this time, I would like to ask all the panelists, before I do that, I want to encourage both the calendar. Look at the future calendar. We're going to take a deeper dive into these topics we covered today. So take a close look and sign up for these seminars. I'm real excited to be a part of it. At this time, I would like to ask all the panelists to turn on your camera and let's have a little open discussion. And you, if you're on the call, get involved here. I got a question for everybody. So I'll give you a minute to turn on your camera, if you would. Hey, Ricky.
Hey, Jeff.
Is Shonda on? Lacey. Hey, there he is. All right. There's she. Hey, Shonda, how you doing? All right. I got it while we're waiting for one or two more to get on. I got a simple question for you. Hey, Lacey. So where do we go from here? I mean, and just jump in there. I want this to be real informal, but as individuals with disabilities and individuals without working in the community, where do we go from here?
Jeff, this is Lacey. So one thing that I noticed, and this is just as an employer. So one thing that I noticed for employers, business owners, for example, I noticed that as employers, business owners, we do a lot to gain education. But one thing that we need to focus on is the domino effect of bringing it down to our teams. So let's just say in reality, a job posting comes out, and let's just say we put it on Indeed.com. Most of the people that will be handling that is our HR teams. So, and Ricky can probably help me out here since she's like the HR person. But in my opinion, you know, let's just say and I'm not a business owner, but let's just say I'm a business owner, okay? And I come and I attend this conference and I learn everything that I'm supposed to learn. But what happens if I don't go back to my organization and bring it down to my HR team and let them know everything that I learned today? Right. So if I'm not doing that part of it, and then this job posting goes out and my HR team gathers the resumes, they schedule the interviews, and then they don't have this information that I learned. So I think as an employer, when you're asking where do employers go from here, we need to make sure that we're educating those that are coming underneath us on this information that's very important. So again, and I always emphasize as a team, because I think in every aspect of any type of organization, everybody's a team, no matter what your status is. And everybody on that team needs to be educated no matter what. So whoever's in attendance today, no matter what role you're serving in, we need to educate other people on what we learned today. That's the only way that we're going to make a difference, is if you go back and share this information with someone else. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Lacey. How about you, Ricky? Oh, we lost, I think. I think I gotta agree with Lacey. One of the big things on my agenda is the CEO comes up with the initiative, but they're not the ones doing the training. So the ones doing the training are the ones that we need to educate. Very important. Shonda, do you have any input on where do we have the responsibility to go forward?
Yeah, Yeah, I think it's important for employers to be knowledgeable because you might not be hiring someone who is upfront and telling you about disability. They may disclose later, or they might find out later. So if they come to you with that conversation, you need to make sure that you're being respectful. I've had an employer who I disclosed to after already working at a position, and they kind of panicked and freaked out. And that made me feel kind of horrible. So making sure that as the employer, you're kind of handling things well. But then as an employee, you need to understand what your rights are, how to advocate for yourself, and be open to sharing things with your employer, creating accommodations that work for you and for the employer. It takes a lot of collaboration and teamwork. So I think it's kind of effort from both sides. So making sure that you as the employer are informed and you're handling it well. And then you as the employee, you know what your rights are and how to self-advocate.
Awesome. Dejan, do you have anything to say about where do we go from there? Mute button.
Can you please repeat that?
Where do we go from here with hiring people with disabilities? Is there any advice that you would give a fellow with a disability looking for a job?
And just give it all you got and go for it.
Fearless.
Be fearless. Be brave. Go for it and do it. Don't be hesitant.
Thank you, Dejan. That was powerful. Thank you, Dejan. That was powerful. Dejan, I spent some time with him yesterday, and I went to bed thinking about one statement that he made. And Dejan said, go for it. And that holds a lot of weight, to just go for it. You know, we also need to feel like we belong in the workforce. We feel, I can do this. That's the attitude that I've got to have. I've got to have self-confidence in order to make this work. Is Rookie on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Rookie, where do we go from here after this hour and a half seminar? Is there any remarks that you have?
So where do we go from here as employers or employees?
Employers. Employers.
I think Ricky's got a little bit of delay, Jeff, if you want to, maybe while she's getting reconnected.
Thank you. Here are some steps that we can take. I'll go over just a few of them. I'm not going to read them all as we're closing up. I do want to continue to encourage chat, speak what's on your mind, be open. Let's be creative. Let's be flexible. Let's lead the way. Let's look at our hiring procedures and policies. Let's look at who's doing the training. Let's look at LRS. Let's look at outside corporations that can help us in this environment. And the main thing is, let's look at each other. You know, let's lean on each other. We're all in it together. And the overall goal is to for everybody to make a living and do what they want to do. Feel proud. Cheney, do you have any comments on where do we go as individuals from here?
Not really sure how to answer that. I'll come back to you on that one.
All right, thank you. What we're I'll give everybody to do some last minute questions, some Q&A before we have to close up. I've really enjoyed, I did want to mention something before we close, and I wish Ricky was here. It has to do with accommodations. So, and we'll dive deeper into it as you check our agenda. So many times when we hear the word accommodation, the automatic response is fear. And in my experience, an accommodation means just stop and think about what's going on at that moment and what would it take at that moment to make the moment more productive. It might be as easy as a piece of Velcro, and I'm speaking from experience. I've had one piece of Velcro turn my whole employment duties around. So let's get those fears out. What time is it? We got a few more minutes for some last minute. Hey, Ricky, you're back.
I'm gonna try this again. I apologize. My internet's unstable because the weather's here. So I'll just finish real quick what I was saying before I got kicked out about accessible interviews and understanding and training supervisors about the need for accommodation and you know, that it's really important supervisory training. And I know for the state of Louisiana, we're actually working on supervisory training right now. So all supervisors in Louisiana state government will be getting ADA training, and it will address how to make interviews accessible, how to respond to applicants and employees when they ask for accommodation. And that response, the very first thing is, how can I help? We're training supervisors that if someone comes to you with a concern, they're having difficulty doing something, like in the example with Cheney, if you know she was having difficulty transporting the tables and she went to Lacey and told Lacey what was happening, Lacey's response would be, how can I help? You know, so we're trying to get supervisors to understand that is the first and best response to anything that happens.
All right, I want to thank y'all for my part in this program, and I look forward to seeing y'all in April. We got 2 in April. So actually, at this point, I will turn it over to Laura. I would like to remind you to check out the chat to schedule your upcoming seminar with us.
And I'm sorry, Jeff, too. I apologize. I had myself muted and I was just carrying on about how great everybody contributed to this session. I do want us to get moving to close out. I know folks have really committed to a lengthy time, but we appreciate everyone that signed on today. I want to thank this Rockstar team that just brought their A game today. I know that you benefited from it in immeasurable ways. We hope that you'll sign up for the following events. Devika has put that link again. Please share the link with a colleague or friend. We really hope that you'll continue to share this information. We're going to dive deeper into a lot of things that we covered today. We will be sending a post-event follow-up. There's going to be a survey. We really want you to give us some input because we want to improve these sessions as we move through till June. There will be a recording of the event and a PowerPoint that'll be shared. Please share those with friends. Also, there'll be more information for registration for the rest of the series coming out. And we know that a lot of our stakeholders online, we want you to reach out and please reach out to me. Devika is going to put my email address in the chat. I would really love it if you would save that and send to me. Many of you asked really great questions. We also believe that you have a lot of resources out there. Please share the resources. We're really developing a nice resource bank of information that we hope to share at the very end of each webinar, but also at the very end of the whole series. So please do not hesitate to send information or questions to me about the upcoming series. I do look forward to seeing our registration numbers. They're already headed up. I would highly recommend that if you're interested at all, that you go ahead and sign up. You don't want to miss your chance to be a part of this series. I do want for anybody, I do see that we have quite a few people left on the session. I really would love for you to share and chat real quick with us and with your panelists that worked so hard. Please share something in chat that you learned. Maybe share something that you know immediately you're going to start to do differently than you have done before. Something that you want to learn more about. This will help to inform our series as we move forward. So take a minute as we're closing out. And I think while we're taking some chat information to just reflect on today's session, I'd love it, Dejan, if you want to close us out with another little bit of inspiration. How do we move forward from here? Give a good word to everybody as we end the session today.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. I will only say is no matter what you do, no matter what you buy, wear, whatever, just as long as it's you. And as long as it makes you happy, makes you happy. So honestly, I will say just if you're struggling to find what you're looking for, it will come to you soon as you know what it is that you want. And all I have to say is go for it. Even if you're looking for a job, I know you're capable of it. Be yourself, do what you can, and be helpful to anyone who needs it.
Thank you, Dejan. Jeff, do you have any final words as we end the session today? As mentioned, please feel free to continue using chat for the next couple minutes if you like as we close out. And again, thank you to the panel and thank you to all the participants for making this a rich session. We look forward to seeing you in April.
Yes, I want to take this opportunity to thank the panel and most importantly, thank everybody who's on this call right now. And I really want to encourage everybody to dive into the deeper sessions on several other topics. And ask yourself one question as we close. What can we do different to help this employment and the disability community? Because this is a huge topic, not only for us, for everybody. We need to lead the pack. And with that said, once again, I want to thank O'Neill Consulting in the state of Louisiana for inviting me to be your host. And I will look forward to seeing y'all in April.
Thanks again, everyone. We'll see you soon.
You're welcome. No problem.
Great job, everybody. Great job.